Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Elizabeth Heaton, and I'm pleased that you all are with us. I'm with the International Committee on Nigeria. There are countless items of tremendous importance going on in the world today, and the fact that you all are here today for this teleconference to discuss the persecution of Christians in Nigeria is really very encouraging, so thank you. We know your time is valuable, so we promise to make today's presentation worthwhile. Before we get started, we ask that everyone stay on mute throughout the news conference. We also ask that if you have a question for our speakers, you wait until the question and answer portion to submit your questions to me through our chat feature. We have a number of distinguished speakers with us to discuss the ongoing violence against Christians in Nigeria, but more specifically, the data report that the International Committee on Nigeria has been compiling over the last year, laying out the case that genocide is happening right before our eyes, and including firsthand statements from victims of the religious persecution that's happening unabated. To start, I'd like to welcome Kyle Abts, co-founder and director of the International Committee on Nigeria. For the last 20 years, Kyle has focused his career on community development and relief efforts, mainly serving in Nigeria with projects like widows and orphan care, income generating projects, and literacy and health. Kyle.
Morning. Thank you for joining us today. As Elizabeth mentioned, I'm Director of International Committee on Nigeria, or ICON. I'm honored to be here with the participants and panelists. Former U.S. Congressman Frank Wolf, you're welcome. Reverend Johnnie Moore, founder of Kairos Company and President of the Congress of Christian Leaders, as well as our friend Dr. Greg Stanton, Chairman and Founding Partner of Genocide Watch. And from Nigeria, the Executive Governor of Benue State, Governor Dr. Samuel Ortom. Thank you for joining us. We are here today to present ICON's findings from a years-long data analysis entitled Genocide in Nigeria and the Implications for the International Community, Nigeria's Silent Slaughter. The release of this report lays out a compelling case that Boko Haram and the Fulani militants and other terrorist organizations are actively carrying out genocide against Christians and innocent women and children in Nigeria, with the BUHARI administration government standing idly by. Our team of volunteers and staff are working on this very project. We've had various app users in Nigeria on the ground. We've had data verification. We've collected and organized data from different sources, OCLED, Nigerian Security Tracker from the Council on Foreign Relations, and the Global Terrorism Database. We've used that and collated it and tried to come up with some sort of path forward. Our colleagues in Nigeria, UK, and EU are the International Organization for Peace Building and Social Justice, or PSJ, along with our network of researchers and reporters, including over 400 individuals from local community and ethnic groups in Nigeria. Our findings have shown that we can credibly say that over the last 2 decades, over 100,000 Nigerians have suffered and died at the hands of these terrorist attacks. During that time frame, Fulani militants have focused their attacks mainly on the Christian states like Benue State, Kaduna State, Plateau State, and Taraba State. While some of the international stage will say these attacks are simply based on land disputes, global warming, farmers versus herders, our data clearly shows that this is not the case. There's been a concerted effort by Boko Haram and Fulani militants to eradicate Nigeria of its Christian population. We fear that if the United States government stands by and allows these atrocities to continue, the entire West African region will fall into disarray, and we will see a genocide like the world hasn't witnessed since Rwanda. Urgent action is needed, which is why ICON has been working tirelessly with the US State Department on behalf of the victims and the vulnerable people in Nigeria to ask the United States to make a formal action by sending a special envoy to Nigeria and the Lake Chad region. In partnering with the US government, we have the ability to stop the killings. We must do all we can do to protect the lives and religious freedoms of these innocent Christians. So we plead with leaders in the United States and the international community to take notice of these atrocities being carried out against our brothers and sisters in Nigeria. We can and we must stop the silent slaughter before it's too late. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Next, we have an esteemed leader within the human rights community, Dr. Gregory Stanton. Dr. Stanton founded Genocide Watch in 1999, a nonprofit organization whose goal is to predict, prevent, stop, and punish genocide. He previously served in the U.S. Department of State from 1992 to 1999, where he drafted the United Nations Security Council resolutions that created the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. Dr. Stanton has extensive knowledge about the persecution of Christians that is taking place in Nigeria. Please help me welcome Dr. Gregory Stanton.
Thank you very much. It's really an honor to be here with you and to really congratulate ICON on this marvelous report that you have put together. This is genocide. There is no question about it. We have known for some time that Boko Haram was committing genocide. In fact, its genocidal intent was very clear in the statements of its leader, Sheku. And, you know, they were, that's the classic definition of genocide. They said they were out to essentially wipe out all Christians and people who didn't agree with their interpretation of Islam and so forth. That's genocide. The question has been, is the Fulani jihadist attack a genocide? And our view, and I think that this report, this wonderful report, clearly demonstrates, yes, it is. Why do we say that? Because there are some who would say, oh, this is just traditional herder versus farmer conflict. In fact, that is at current times the dominant narrative. By the way, it was this same kind of a situation we had in Rwanda, where even our ambassador in Rwanda was not willing to say it was genocide because he just thought it was a civil war. The problem with that kind of view is that most genocides do occur during conflicts and during civil wars or international wars. So these things are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they go together. So why is it genocide? Well, the first thing you have to prove for genocide is that a targeted group is one of the groups that's protected by the Genocide Convention. The Genocide Convention defines genocide as the intentional destruction in whole or in part of a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group as such. Here we have very clear intentional destruction of Christians. They are targeting a religious group, Christians. The second thing you have to do, of course, is to show that there have been acts of genocide. Well, in the Genocide Convention, Article 2A, it says killing is one of those acts. We have demonstrated here in this report that the Fulani jihadists, not the Fulani, just the jihadist group among them, has killed at least 20,000 people and all Christians since the beginning of their jihad, which was just a few years ago. The second thing is causing serious physical or mental harm to Christians by destroying their villages. That's Article 2B of the Genocide Convention. And the third is deliberately depriving the Christians of their ability to survive, to get food, by driving them off of their farms. That's Article 2C of the Genocide Convention. And then the question is it intentional? That's always the one that the lawyers love to quarrel about. In this case, because the raids on the Christian villages are systematic, widespread, and organized, they are clearly intentional. We aren't sure, in fact, who is the sort of central leader of these groups. We will find out, I hope, because I think these people need to be brought to justice. But the point is, to prove genocide, you don't have to have proved a central leader. In fact, if you have a terrorist group like the Fulani jihadists, this kind of systematic, widespread, and organized killing and other forms of destruction is genocide. So what is the global impact of this kind of genocide? Well, let's be very clear. Genocide is one of the most serious problems in the world and has been all the way through human history, but in fact, since the beginning of the 20th century, especially, genocide has killed more people during the 20th century than all of the wars combined. And we are now aiming for another century when that's the case. So this is a huge problem. What has the US government done about it to address this genocide in Nigeria? The answer is very little. Our own ambassador in Nigeria even denies that the Fulani jihadists are committing genocide. She thinks this is a herder-farmer conflict caused by climate change, desertification, and so forth. That's what I called the dominant narrative. What she doesn't understand is that genocide usually does occur during conflicts, and this is another case. What more does the US need to do? Well, I agree completely with Congressman Wolf that we need a special envoy, because if you're going to counter the denials of an ambassador, you have to have a special envoy, and it has to be someone appointed by the president and has that kind of authority. But the second thing we need is we need to put pressure on the BUHARI government to stop these massacres. Up to this point, the BUHARI government at the best can be said to be a bystander to these massacres. President Buhari is Fulani himself. That doesn't mean he's necessarily behind these massacres, but it does mean that his government has not paid enough attention to actually stopping them. Secondly, the US should sponsor an organized program to train Nigerian law enforcement personnel about how to conduct investigations and eventually arrest the people who are committing these massacres. Third, the next thing the US should do is help the Nigerian government set up a strike force to hunt down, arrest, and prosecute the Boko Haram, Fulani jihadists, and ISIS in West Africa killers. Until they are, in fact, hunted down, brought under arrest, and put on trial and prosecuted, we will have continuing massacres. And then finally, I would argue, we need to mobilize the power of the church. Nigeria is 50% Christian. It has a very strong church. So the US churches should support Nigerian churches to set up human rights monitoring programs in every church that can sponsor them, can train Christian leaders in how to understand genocide, to how to report on it, and finally to help organizations like ICON that are trying to do the justice that is needed here in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stanton. That was really helpful. Up next on the agenda, we have Reverend Johnnie Moore. He was supposed to be with us in person today, but had a last-minute conflict and was very disappointed that he couldn't join us, but he was able to send a pre-recorded some remarks for us. So we'll still introduce him. He's the founder and CEO of the Kairos company, and he is president of the Congress of Christian Leaders. Reverend Moore has advocated relentlessly for religious freedom in the Middle East. He has also spent time in Nigeria, and he has witnessed firsthand the ongoing violence that's taking place over there today. So we are going to play his remarks for you now.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Kyle. It's a real honor to be with you today here to discuss Nigeria. I love Nigeria, let me say. It's an incredible country, has an amazing and important history, and an unbelievable contribution to the world has been made by the Nigerians in countless ways and in countless circumstances. And that's what grieves me so much about what's happening in the country today, because what's happening in Nigeria doesn't have to be happening in Nigeria. It's happening because of leadership, leadership that seems unwilling or incapable of solving a problem which nearly everyone in the world believes is a perilous situation that needs to be addressed immediately. I've been paying attention to the situation for a long time, but I made my first visit this last February. I traveled there with a dear friend of mine, Rabbi Abraham Cooper from the Wiesenthal Center, and we decided to go meet with victims of the atrocities at the hands of Boko Haram and of Fulani militants in the center of the country. And I have to tell you, I knew a lot going into my trip. I've been following the situation for years. I've received sometimes daily, certainly weekly reports of what's been going on there from friends and associates of mine. I've been paying attention. But when I went there, I discovered that the situation was immensely worse than I even realized. It was much, much more of an emergency than I think most people even realize, even those who are well informed. It's an emergency because Nigeria is such an important country. I mean, this is a country of hundreds of millions of people. It's has the largest oil reserves on the continent of Africa, within the top 10 in the entire world. Basically, what happens with Nigeria affects that whole part of the great continent of Africa. And that country is teetering because of an inability to address these atrocities being committed at the hands of terrorists and criminals, very often, sometimes exclusively motivated by religion. And this has to stop. It has to stop now. And by the way, if you don't feel morally compelled to do everything in your power to stop the daily murder of innocent people in Nigeria at the hands of Boko Haram and ISIS in West Africa, and of these certain Fulanis who become terrorists themselves, if you aren't morally compelled to do it, then you ought to be compelled in your self-interest to do it. If you have economic interest in the stability of the entire world, then we need to pay attention to the stability of Africa's largest country. If you care about geopolitical stability, then you have to recognize that there have already been hundreds of thousands of Nigerians displaced all across that region in neighboring countries like Niger, Chad, and Cameroon. There have been tens of thousands of more that have been trafficked on modern slave markets around the entire world. It is incomprehensible. So whether your concerns are economic or geopolitical or about security for that matter, I mean, the epicenter of terrorism has moved steadily all around the world. And now I'm very sorry to say, but it seems that increasingly the center of all terrorist activity in the world is in that part, the northeast of Nigeria. It is a failed state in some circumstances within a state. And let me tell you something. The government can be doing more to address this, and they can do it tomorrow to address it. And by the way, they don't even have till tomorrow, because just as I was preparing to address all of you today, I read about the recent attacks in the last couple of days, where more innocent men, women, and children have been massacred in incomprehensible ways. Look, Nigeria is an incredible ally of the United States of America. This is not a country that is an enemy of the United States, and it shouldn't be. It's a friend of the United States, an important friend of the United States. And the United States government has been clear as it relates to its human rights and religious freedom foreign policy. It is the priority of the United States government to ensure that all of our allies are prioritizing human rights and religious freedom. There has never been a message declared more clearly by any administration than has this administration when it comes to religious freedom. It's time for Nigeria to step up, not because of the United States and not because of activists like all of us, but because of its own people. The primary responsibility of any government is to secure the safety and the rights of its own people. That is the responsibility of every government in the world. And I know it's a difficult time. I know the pandemic is causing all governments in the world to struggle under the weight of this surprise and unforeseen event. But the Nigerian government can do more tomorrow than they did today to protect their citizens, and they must do it. And it must happen immediately. You know, I'm probably like a lot of you. I've got a lot going on in my life, and every single day there are many demands on my time, many things I need to do. many things to be concerned about, and there's no end of areas of potential focus. But after visiting Nigeria, and after hearing and sitting with so many victims, listening to their stories as I looked into their eyes, I came away from that country with the conviction that despite everything else that might go across my desk today, every phone call I get, everything that's going on in this moment of history that we're all experiencing, including through the pandemic, that I absolutely have to keep Nigeria at the heart of everything I have going on, because of the amount of innocent lives that are in harm's way. And so my message to those everyday Americans, Nigerians, and others around the world is be a voice for the voiceless, stand up for the vulnerable, raise their voice. My message for the Nigerian government is stop making excuses, stop arguing about causation, and just put all of that energy not into defending yourself, but in doing a little more to protect your own people. And my message to my own government in the United States of America is now is the time to take our foreign policy priorities as it relates to human rights, religious freedom, security, terrorism, and to ensure that our embassies and our humanitarian assistance programs, our aid, our security assistance programs, everything that the United States government is involved in that part of Africa. It's time to evaluate all of it and ensure that we are doing our part to both help the Nigerians and to shine a light on the Nigerians when they refuse to be helped. I don't want to look back a year from now and see the same situation that we're looking at today. Now is the time to act.
That was great. As Reverend Moore and our previous speakers have laid out the violence taking place, we are now going to hear from a person who sees the violence almost on a daily basis, Governor Samuel Ortom of Nigeria's Benue state. Governor Ortom was first elected in 2015 and won a second term just last year. He's dedicated his time and effort to security in his state, enacting the open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment law in 2017, with the goal of reducing the violence between Christian farmers and Fulani militants. It's my pleasure to introduce Governor Ortom.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me appreciate ICON for the sustained efforts in supporting us here in Nigeria, and for the good work you're doing to help us overcome this challenge we have here in our country, Nigeria. We deeply appreciate this. On ongoing genocide in Benue State and Nigeria, the federal government will still need to do more. It needs to do more. Those coming across the Nigerian's borders, I've called on the federal government to declare the Fulani herdsmen as terrorists so that government will focus attention and deal with it decisively. I'm yet to receive response from this. And several other groups did back me up to encourage federal government to come out with a clear statement on the acts of the Fulani herdsmen. How and why herdsmen terrorism looks like ethnic and religious genocide. The Boko Haram, when they go out to attack, they go out and shout Allah Akbar. ISIS does the same thing. Fulani herdsmen does the same thing. And from more indication, it is a jihad that earlier speaker did say, And it is a continuation of 1804 jihad that Othman Dan Fodio, the father of the jihadis in Nigeria, came and did a deliberate program to take over the country, Nigeria. And the Fulani herdsmen in Nigeria today have not hidden this fact. They have held press conferences and they have said that it is a continuation of 1800 jihad that Othman Dan Fodio started, that until they conquer the whole nation and turn it into a Muslim country, and every Nigerian must learn to live their way of life. They have not hidden this. They have made it very clear to everyone, and they have held conferences. They have a social cultural organization called Mayati Ala Cotton Hori. And these are their men who come out to justify killings. And up to today, I have called several times the federal government who own security forces should arrest these people. Up to today, none of them have been apprehended and at least even questioned or brought to book on all this genocide. But they have not hidden this fact. They have said it, that it is a jihad. There is no hidden fact about this, about what Fulani herdsmen are doing. Now, the humanitarian crisis is as a result of these killings. Of course, you have widows, you have widowers, you have orphans, and several other challenges on the humanitarian crisis. The data report cited about Benue State is accurate in the book. There are no signs that the situation is getting better. We want government to do more because the killings are still going on. Even with the enactment of the law, though Benue State government is enforcing the law, here we have prosecuted over 400, arrested over 400 herdsmen. We have prosecuted and convicted over 130 of them. There is relative calm, but the killings are still go on. They come in guerrilla tactics and try to displace our villagers and kill them and go back without being confronted with sophisticated weapons. Now, serious threats to livelihoods and food security. Over 180,000 of these IDPs are in about 8 camps that we created in Benue State. They're still lying there. And over 500,000 people are living with relatives. And these are people who have made it possible for us to have the appellation that Benue State is the food basket of the nation. And you can imagine the impact on food security if these people cannot access their farm and go about their livelihood. The federal government did promise to help the IDPs in 2018, but we are yet to see any substantial help coming in to support the IDPs and the state. Now, I want to agree with earlier speakers that there is need for international support to defeat terrorism in Nigeria and help our victims. We call on US government to send an envoy like they did in the Middle East. I believe that they will have first-hand information on what is going on here, not the deceit that people who are behind sponsoring this terrorism against other ethnic groups and Christians will tell them. They will have first-hand information on this. And I would like to also call on the international community to help with the IDP situation in Benue State. I believe that there are so many challenges of IDPs in other parts of the country, but I'm particular about Benue State, where I'm in charge as governor of the state. Once again, I want to appreciate ICON for this great work you're doing, and may God bless you.
Thank you so much. Our final speaker today is distinguished former US Congressman Frank Wolf. Congressman Wolf spent over 30 years in the House of Representatives for Virginia's 10th Congressional District. He has spent decades advocating for human rights and religious freedom in the United States and abroad. His unyielding support for religious freedom resulted in the passage of Frank R. Wolf International Religious Freedom Act of 2015, which established the International Religious Freedom Office at the U.S. State Department and the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. Congressman Wolf.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to thank ICON for the very powerful report, and thank the other speakers. The United States needs to appoint a special envoy for Nigeria and the Lake Chad region. You have heard from the speakers how bad things are there. Boko Haram is committing genocide. The Fulani militants are committing genocide and genocidal activity. ISIS have moved from the Middle East into that region. The Global Terrorism Index has named Nigeria the third most dangerous country in the world after Afghanistan and Iraq. Bernard Henry Levy in the Wall Street Journal several months ago compared this country, what's taking place in Nigeria, to Darfur and Rwanda, where we know hundreds of thousands have died when the United States, when the UN and the West ignored what was taking place in Rwanda. Former President Bill Clinton, before he left office, felt so badly about Rwanda that near the end of his presidency, he flew to Rwanda to apologize to the Rwanda people for not acting. What is happening in Nigeria may very well lead to the same conditions. The conditions are grim. There are millions of displaced persons. There is kidnapping for ransom. There is rampant hunger in many portions of the country. There is little education in the north. There is sexual trafficking. There are 15,000 Nigerian women and girls being sexually trafficked in Italy alone. And there's massive corruption in the Nigerian government. The US, the American government, needs to appoint a special envoy to coordinate the US response by various government agencies and other Western governments, England, France, Germany, and the UN. The model could be really the model that was done when the special envoy was for Sudan. President Bush, George W. Bush, appointed John Danforth to deal with the situation in Sudan. The situation in Sudan was horrible. It's almost comparable to what's taking place in Nigeria. In the White House, in the Rose Garden, President Bush on one side, John Danforth in the middle, and former Secretary of State Colin Powell on the other, appointed special envoy John Danforth to have the authority to bring this to an end, and he brought peace. That would be the model for what we should be doing, what the Trump administration should be doing in Nigeria. It has said, so goes Nigeria, so goes Western Africa. And some people have even said, so goes Nigeria, so goes all of Africa. We beg, I pray that the administration appoints a special envoy, like Senator Danforth, to end this problem.
Thank you for that. I want to thank all of our speakers today for taking the time to present on this issue. As we've heard, the situation is critical. The facts in ICON's report make that abundantly clear. And we can't thank you all enough for taking the time to pay attention and to help get the word out about this issue. We're going to open up the floor for some questions now. I see that we already have some coming in. I think the first question is for Governor Ortom. It's about the figures of 180,000 displaced persons in 8 camps in Benue and 500,000 living with families. Are those current figures?
Yeah, these are current figures of what we have on ground. They have not changed. What I've told you is what we have on ground.
Okay. Thank you so much. And again, if anyone else has questions, you can enter those questions into the chat feature on the right. We'll go ahead and present those to our speakers and get answers for those quickly. We do have another question. Kyle, I think this one is probably best for you, but anyone can feel free to jump in. We have a lot of influential people that are listening on the call today here in the US and abroad. This is a critical issue. What do you recommend that people could do to help with the efforts to advocate for the special envoy, or just to help their voices be heard in this effort?
I'll speak to that, but before I will speak to that, I would like to recognize International Organization for Peace Building and Social Justice, in short, PSJ, that is working in Nigeria with us, in the UK with us, and also in France with us. So we have the document and the data, the digital copy will be made available, and we'll give anybody who requests for the digital copy. So like we are mobilizing Nigerians who actually are based in the United States or North America, to work within this call that our civic responsibility as citizens or people holding dual citizenship in Nigeria and the United States should commit themselves to promote the cause of the vulnerable in Nigeria. And so we are mobilizing Americans of Nigeria descent here, and we are also calling our UK counterpart and those in European Union countries that we need to mobilize around these issues by bringing perpetrators to justice, and also by making sure government in Nigeria is held accountable.
Great. Thank you for that. And specifically, Kyle, are there things that you think that people on this call can do to be helpful, whether it be reaching out to members of Congress or helping with the call to action to help get that special envoy appointed?
Yeah, I mean, of course, always the actions of the U.S. citizens to call for the U.S. government to be involved is their right and their obligation too. I mean, if they see these atrocities happening, it's great to speak out, but it's also great to be active with your congressmen, your senators, as much as you can. On our website, iconhelp.com, there's a section where they can click on there, find out who their representative is, send them a letter. We have a little form letter that we use. You can go to the silenceslaughternigeria.com as well as and sign the petition calling for a special envoy. So the more they get involved with groups, with networks like our own, and we can link with others, the more our voices come together and the louder it's heard.
Wonderful. It looks like we have Baroness Caroline Cox on the line, and she would like to make a brief statement. So I'm going to ask that her line be unmuted so that she can do that for us.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah. I'd like to say how much I appreciate every word that's been spoken this afternoon and how encouraged I am. I'd like to make 4 very brief points. Firstly, I speak from my own personal experience. I've been to Nigeria so many times while the Boko Haram have been doing their horrendous killings, and more recently down in Central Belt where the Fulani have been perpetrating atrocities. So I've seen firsthand the dead bodies. I've seen the mass graves. I've wept with people who've suffered atrocities. There's one lovely lady whose left arm was amputated. They cut all the fingers off her right hand, so she can't do anything. Another young mum was surrounded. She had a 6-year-old daughter with her, and they said, your daughter would like to suck her mother's finger. They cut her finger off. I've seen the amputation. And she woke up from passing out and saw her 6-year-old little girl dead with mother's finger in her mouth. These are atrocities. You cannot explain these by desertification, by land shortage. They are part of the bigger picture. So very briefly, I've witnessed the loss of lives, loss of loved ones, loss of churches, homes, livelihoods. I'm part of the all-party parliamentary group, second point, on freedom of religion or belief in the UK. And I am pleased to say that after a long battle, we published a report which does get the truth on the record. It's actually called Nigeria Unfolding Genocide ? And has a lot of the evidence, the statistics, which you've referred to so very comprehensively and usefully, so I don't need to repeat those. What I do need to say is that I'm deeply worried about the growth and the irreversibility if it goes on much longer. As has been mentioned, ISIS is there, ISIS West Africa province, and they're there, they're carrying on their awful massacres into Burkina Faso, spreading. And it will become irreversible very soon. And the final quick point I want to make is that I grieve to say that our UK government, I think, has exactly the same response as your US administration. When I raised this in Parliament, they said, well, it's tit for tat between Fulani herdsmen and Christian farmers, that it's due to a land shortage because of desertification. And that's their line. I met the High Commissioner in Abuja, and that was exactly the line in Abuja. Our Foreign Office line refuses to recognize the seriousness, the irreversibility, and indeed the gravity of the situation. And finally, I would say we're also not good at providing humanitarian aid. When we're in the Middle Belt, where the Fulani have been perpetrating their killing of thousands, our Department for International Development is not providing aid in Middle Belt. I'd love to know why. I haven't had a good answer. But final point is just looking at the emails coming today. This is going on today. One of the emails says, a total of 23 harmless Southern Kaduna natives have been killed by Fulani in 72 hours. That's July the 22nd. And then there are lots of examples here, I'm sorry to say. July the 29th, 32 people were killed, 32 were killed from gunshots, 32 others sustained injuries after a wedding. These are, while we're sitting here, this is going on. So it is urgent and it's essential that we do something to protect the people and to stop otherwise an irreversible process. So thank you for letting me share the pain and the passion, but it's a great comfort to do so with people who share the same concerns and the same passion to do something to stop this genocide. Thank you for letting me share.
Absolutely. Thank you for that perspective. I have a question for Governor Ortom, and then I have a request from REUBEN BUHARI to share some on-the-ground reports on what's going on currently, which is, I think, extremely relevant right now. So first, for Governor Ortom, as some Fulani militants have been arrested and prosecuted in the Benue state, can the international community access such people to interrogate and gain further insight to help change the current dominant narrative?
Well, like I said, for us here at the local level in Benue State, we're implementing the law we enacted in 2017. Like I said, over 400 Fulani herdsmen have been arrested and have been tried. Some are under investigation. About more than 130 of them are convicted. Some were given option or fine. Some are still in prison until they serve their term. And so for us, the process is ongoing, and we intend not to relent because democracy is anchored by the rule of law. And to this extent, the security agencies, though they are controlled by the federal government, that they're supporting us, and we're doing the prosecution. So relatively, we have some peace here in Benue State for now. And those Fulani men that come around Benue State know that they are trespassing against a legitimate law that has been enacted in Benue State. So that has brought a lot of minimum peace within the state. The current killings are being perpetrated by those who come without cattle. It is deliberate and to scare people and to perpetually allow those who are in IDP camps not to go back to their ancestral homes.
Thank you very much for that. Next, we're going to turn the floor over to REUBEN BUHARI. He's a reporter on the ground and is going to provide an update on the situation in southern Kaduna right now, where the attacks have really picked up in the last couple of days. Can we go ahead and unmute REUBEN?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Maybe just briefly, in southern Kaduna, what is actually happening now is, although we've had some little quietness in the last few days, but if you all remember, from 11th July to 2020 to 20th July, 64 people were killed. And these killings happened when they followed village after village. In fact, between 11th to 12th July, 29 people were killed. And then they moved to a village called Efele Doka on the 17th, and they killed 5 people. And then they moved to Kukumdaji on the 17th, Kukumdaji on the 19th, and then they killed 18 people. And then from there to move to a village, Goragan, where they killed 10 people. And then the latest attack that took place in Zipak, which is close to Kafanchan. So if you look at how these killings have been taking place, you find out that it moves smoothly from one community to the other. And let me throw this to you. This happened under a 24-hour curfew. I mean, the whole local government was supposed to be under a 24-hour curfew, but in between, those dates from 11 to 20th, we've lost 60-something people, and there are thousands of people that have been displaced into camps, and then we have a lot of people injured that are in hospital. So like I said, we've had one or two relative peace now, but of course you sit down and then the whole place gets quiet, and then suddenly village after village starts being attacked. And like I keep saying, if you look at how it follows from one local government to the other, from one local government to the other, you realize that this is a systematic killing that is going on. So I just said I should throw more light on what is happening there. Thank you.
Thank you, Reuben. We have a question from Anne Buwalda with the Jubilee campaign. She would like to know whether any of the speakers have identified specific persons who are leaders or instigators within the Fulani militants. She says we need to identify and name names. There are many tools to go after the leaders of the violence. Is that maybe, Kyle, a question for you?
Yeah.
I didn't hear the full question.
Yeah, I heard it.
You heard it? Okay.
Yeah. I think Governor Ortom wants to speak, but before that, we have somebody that is a subject of concern, and he is a state governor. Governor Nasir El-Rufai has made statements. One, he came out to say that he gave terrorists some money not to kill people. So he has enabled terrorists to carry out acts of assault and killings on her people. And then he has come again to that the killings going on in southern Kaduna is a reprisal attack. So these are careless statements. And to me, he's one person that should be investigated. And if he's found culpable, he should be prosecuted. So he's actually one of the a specific leader in Nigeria who has come in support of terrorists, especially Fulani militants.
Yeah, like I said earlier in my opening remarks, Meyajiela Captain Hore is the socio-cultural organization for the Fulani ethnic group here in Nigeria. And they came up and owned up that they are responsible. In 2018, when over 70 people were killed in Benue State, they came out and owned up that they are responsible, according to them, that their cattle were rustled and so on. And they have said repeatedly that for Nigeria to live in peace, every Nigerian must accept their way of life. Otherwise, there will be no peace. And another Fulani group came out to say that it is a continuation, that this is something Fulani Forum, that this is a continuation of 1800 jihad brought in by Othman Dan Fodio, that they will continue because he was the author of Sokoto Caliphate. And their intention is to capture the entire country, turn it into a Muslim, and turn all Nigerians to become like Fulanis and do their way of life. So they have taken responsibility on this matter. They have not. My question is, why is federal government, after repeated calls from me and some other Nigerians, that these people should be arrested and prosecuted? If you go to Abuja where they live, they are undercover, they are given protection. Why are these people, are they above the law? That is the question. And as I talk to you, when you talk of illegal arms, the police here in Nigeria say that those with license, those of us with license guns should surrender them. But they have not spoken anything they are doing to stop the Fulanis from not carrying on arms.
Let me make one comment, if you don't mind, on this question, because I think Ann Buwalda's question is very important. Her organization, the Jubilee Campaign, in fact, has put together a magnificent report, one of the first, that really called this genocide, rightly, and also took this to the International Criminal Court. The ICC has not yet, in fact, really mobilized the investigation it needs to do. But it is possible because Nigeria, in fact, is a party to the ICC treaty, to the Rome Statute. But the ICC probably isn't the place where most of these cases are going to, be tried. They need to be tried in Nigeria. That's what's so important about getting the Nigerian government on board, and especially state governments, because that's where a lot of the criminal cases are brought. So your question is very helpful, I think, and because until there is accountability, until there's justice that is brought to bear against the people committing these killings, they will continue.
That's actually a great lead into our next question, which is for all panelists. And from your understanding, what would you say is the greatest barrier to stopping the atrocities quickly and to seeking justice?
I would say the greatest barrier is the failure of the West to do anything about this. It's the same way in Rwanda. Cables were coming into the UN and to the State Department telling them how bad Rwanda was, and they did nothing. That's why President Clinton, to his credit, went and apologized. Darfur was the same way. 200 to 300,000 died. Cables were coming in. Sam Brownback and I went to Darfur and came back, and God bless Colin Powell. He then did something about it, and President Bush. So I think it's a failure of the United States and the West to do anything about it.
I would add, it's also the failure of the Nigerian government. Let's put the blame where it belongs here. Also, no question, we must be putting pressure on the Nigerian government. That's why we need that special envoy. And also we need to help the Nigerian government. We need to offer the assistance in law enforcement training, in standing up a strike force to really go after the perpetrators of these crimes. So Frank is absolutely right about that. We can do a lot to help.
Okay, and we did receive a question about where the report is so that people can receive a link to it. Just to let everybody know, it is on the ICON website. That website is iconhelp.org. There's a silent slaughter tab on their page where you can find a link to the online ebook. We'll go ahead and send that out via email as well, so that'll be easily available. I have one last question here. It's kind of last call for questions. We're getting toward the 12 o'clock hour, and so we want to be mindful of everyone's time. And I apologize if I don't get this question quite correctly, but it says, Governor Ortom mentioned the international dimension of the crisis being the Middle East. So question to Congressman Frank Wolf, what can the U.S. do to investigate these international connections?
That's where the special envoy would make a difference. The special envoy, when John Danforth was appointed by George Bush, he coordinated all the activity of our government. He brought in AID, he brought in the State Department, he brought in the Department of Defense, he brought in everybody. He brought in the U.S. World, the hunger programs, he brought in the U.S. World Food Program, the UN. So you need one person who has the responsibility. In government, if no one steps forward and has the responsibility, personnel is policy, then it really doesn't get done, because in the bureaucracy, nobody wants to be the first person. So that John Danforth was able to coordinate all that activity. Also, the fact that Danforth had the support of President Bush and Secretary Powell, when he went to Sudan, the Sudan government listened to him because he had the credibility of being supported by the administration.
Great. Well, it looks like that's the last of our questions. Stephen, I'll turn it over to you for closing remarks.
Thank you, everybody, for making time. But I would like to pass this over to one of our principal partners, Pastor ADEDOYIN, who coordinates along Barony course in England, to give a remark. And we thank our governor. And also, I would like to also mentioned here that Governor of Taraba State could not make it because of another engagement, but this is really good and fine, and we believe that everybody should be able to read through this document. So over to Dr. Ayo ADEDOYIN.
Okay, very good afternoon, and to close out, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has participated in this afternoon's lunch. All of your comments are terribly important and encourages us to keep fighting going. Particularly want to appreciate the work with Stephen and Kyle are doing in the US. In a few weeks' time, we're hoping to have a similar event like this in the UK. The more we keep coordinating and pressing forward, by God's grace, we'll have a positive result in the end. But once again, thank you so much for everything that you all do.
Excellent. Thank you, Ayo, and thank you again, everyone, for joining. We'll send out a copy of that report again, and it is available on the ICON website. That is iconhelp.org under the Silent Slaughter tab. If you have questions, feel free to send us an email, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So thank you once again for your time, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.